Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, let's just dive right in and uncover the truth behind those bizarre coffee flavor notes printed on your bag. I mean, have you ever picked up a bag of specialty coffee and honestly wondered if you're buying a morning brew or like a fruit salad? Today, we're breaking down exactly what those labels actually mean, where they come from, and how you can train your own palate to taste them.
Here's our roadmap for This Explainer. We're going to cover the mystery of flavor notes, what tasting notes actually are, the science of Q graders, using the flavor wheel, and finally, developing your own coffee palate. Let's get to it. Section 1. The mystery of flavor notes, marketing ploy or reality.
It is incredibly easy to wonder if roasters are just messing with us when we read these wildly specific labels. Seriously, does a coffee really taste like a mango White Claw or leather? What about a grape jelly donut? As a beginner barista, or really just someone who loves a good cup of coffee, it can kind of feel like an inside joke that you just aren't quite in on.
And there's this massive contrast between classic, comforting flavors and the totally wild ones that make you buy a $20 bag out of pure curiosity, right? On one hand, you've got standard notes like chocolate and caramel, super common, easy to expect. But then on the other hand, you have off-the-wall stuff, like a naturally processed Costa Rican claiming to taste like a grape jelly donut, or an Ethiopian coffee that supposedly tastes like a pickle. Look, let's be real, sometimes these hyper-specific weird notes are indeed a bit of a marketing ploy just to grab your attention. But the baseline concept of tasting notes is very, very real.
Section 2. What are tasting notes? The psychology of flavor memory. So the absolutely crucial point here is that these flavors are completely natural and inherent to the bean itself. They're dictated by the origin soil, how the bean was processed, and the roasting method. They are not from post-roast additives. Nobody is pumping artificial flavor syrups into these beans. So when a bag says blueberry, there are absolutely no actual blueberries in your coffee.
It's all about memory. Our brains rely heavily on past memory association to identify what we're currently experiencing in the cup. When you take a sip of a complex coffee, your brain frantically searches its internal filing cabinet to find a match. Like, if you try matcha for the very first time, your brain might immediately link it to grass. Or if you try a complex Italian dessert, your brain might say, okay, this reminds me of kulfi.
Because of this whole matching process, you simply cannot recall a flavor you've never actually experienced. That makes tasting an incredibly personal, totally subjective journey. If a roaster prints grapefruit on the bag, but you've literally never eaten a grapefruit, you just won't have the reference point to taste it. Your brain's going to find the closest match in your own personal library, maybe something like Mozambique instead. So honestly, do not stress out if your tasting experience doesn't exactly match the label. Section 3. The science of Q graders, the professionals behind the bag. Now, who is actually writing these labels? Well, these are the experts slurping off cupping spoons who possess the crazy palate required to tell a Meyer lemon apart from a standard lemon or semi-sweet chocolate apart from baker's chocolate. They're called Q graders, and they are highly specialized, certified professionals responsible for identifying exactly what goes on that bag. And building this level of professional calibration requires an intensely rigorous process. Q graders are definitely not just guessing. They undergo extensive palate training, blindly identifying specific organic acids, and recalling precise flavor concentrations so their palate aligns with strict global standards. And they have to constantly calibrate and then recalibrate their senses against these standards, enduring rigorous testing and recertification. It's the only way to ensure their palate remains razor sharp. But hey, we need a quick reality check here. Please don't feel misled if you miss a flavor note because you probably aren't brewing in these highly specific, completely controlled laboratory conditions at home. Q graders determine these notes in a professional cupping lab using precise recipes, top-tier commercial grinders, and absolutely perfect water. Meanwhile, you and I might be at home using a dusty old burr grinder that still has remnants of yesterday's vanilla-flavored coffee, using water from a Brita filter we forgot to change months ago. Your home equipment heavily impacts the final flavor. Section 4. Using the flavor wheel, the map for your palate. So, to navigate all this overwhelming complexity, the Specialty Coffee Association, the SCA, created the flavor tasting wheel. It's brilliant. It maps out common, recognizable flavors found in coffee, and it organizes them in this highly structured way, starting from the center and working outward. This logical progression is exactly how a beginner barista can trace a general sensation all the way down to a very specific flavor note. Here's how you use it. You take a sip and start broad, right in the center of the wheel, thinking, okay, this tastes fruity. Then you move out one ring to narrow it down.
All right, is it a berry fruit or a citrus fruit? Definitely citrus. Finally, you move to the outer edge to get super specific. Is it orange or lemon? Oh, it tastes like lemon. It essentially takes an overwhelming sip of coffee and turns it into a structured, easy-to-follow path.
Section 5. Developing your coffee palate. Practical steps for beginner baristas. Okay, so how do we actually put this into practice? First off, go out and consciously taste new fruits and chocolates at the grocery store to expand your own internal flavor memory. But when it comes to the coffee itself, the absolute most empowering thing you can do is taste blindly. Trust your own palate first, and then compare it to the roaster. When you buy a new bag, purposely ignore the flavor notes. Brew it, taste it, write down literally anything that comes to your mind, and only then check the bag to see how your experience aligns with what the Q graders tasted. Because if you don't do this blindly, you are going to fall victim to the power of suggestion. Flavor notes are a really helpful guide. They act like a coffee Sherpa pointing you toward a profile you'll probably enjoy, like grabbing a bag with chocolate notes if you prefer darker flavors. But if you look at those notes too early, your brain will absolutely trick you into tasting what it expects to taste. You'll focus entirely on hunting down that specific note instead of just experiencing the coffee for what it actually is. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to ponder. Next time you take a sip, ask yourself this. Would you have honestly tasted orange soda if the coffee bag hadn't suggested it to you first? Try brewing your next cup completely blind. Ignore the marketing and discover what your coffee actually tastes like to you.